Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, is my good friend Drew Crawley. Drew, what's up?
Oh man, I am doing great. I'm about as happy as I get. Just came back from 6 days in Tennessee for Bonnaroo, and
Yeah.
then I am now currently back in Nashville. Just finished a day of work at the studio with our mutual friend Lorenzo. We cut keys and some bass parts today, so that was
Awesome.
super fun. And drinking whiskey. I'm pretty sure my bloodstream is like 20% sunscreen and 20% bourbon right now.
Okay.
And that's about as much as I know. I'm just kind of taking it a day at a time, but I'm very happy.
Well,
How
that's
about
good.
you?
Well, I had a big week planned. Okay. Had a big week planned. My plan was Wednesday night, I was supposed to go with Alan Bishop, or our friend Alan Bishop, to go see Jerry Dalton,
Mm.
who was the former distiller at Jim Beam. And I got sick that day, and so I didn't get to go there. Didn't get to have our bourbon group meet on Thursday night, and didn't get to go see our guests play on Friday night. MojoThunder. We'll get into those guys in a few minutes. Man, fantastic band, and I hated to miss that, but we have them here today, and can't wait to talk with them. But so I had a I guess the opposite week of you, uh, if that makes any sense. Um,
Absolutely.
so we'll, we'll get into more of that in just a few minutes. But first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who make content for the distilling enthusiast. If you like whiskey, we've got a show for you. Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson have a show called Distillers Talk. They do deep dives with distillers from across the country, around the world, telling you more about how what is in your glass got there. The whiskey that's in that bottle didn't just appear by magic. There's a method to it, and they dig deep into that. It's a really great geeky show. And speaking of more geeky shows, Alan also does a thing called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where if you are a distiller, whether legal or illicit, you can submit questions to Alan about distillation, and he'll post responses to them on YouTube. Really interesting. Again, most of it's over my head, but it's always fun to listen. We also have My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch. Their show airs every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. Check that out. It's always fun to hang with the folks in the chat. And we've got one more announcement, and then we'll get into the show.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times, so then that way it stays as a like.
Thanks, Mike. We always appreciate your input to our show. So tonight we have with us Bryson Willoughby, who is guitarist, one of the founders of MojoThunder, and Andrew Brockman, who plays the bass for the group. And Andrew and I are going to have a conversation about the way he plays bass. Because it's like nothing else I've ever seen. In a good way. In a good way.
Right.
In a good way.
I was like, this is off to a wonderful start.
In a good way. No, look, if you've not seen these guys play, you got to. First time I saw you, I'll start with this. First time I saw you all, I think it was 2019 at Zanzibar. You were opening for Trigger Hippie.
Oh wow! All right. Yeah.
And I didn't know your band, and I heard, like, these guys are awesome. But what is that guy doing to his bass guitar? Oh, I exactly how many bass guitars have you impregnated over the last 4 years?
I'm so big at this point, you know. It's just gonna pop out little mini basses.
It's highly entertaining, and I love the enthusiasm. And quite honestly, and nobody ever wants to see this. If I'm listening to MojoThunder and I'm just hanging out in the basement drinking a whiskey, I'm kind of doing a little Andrew dance while I'm listening. But again, nobody wants to see that. With you, it's great. For me, no good at all. But anyway, enough of my distractions on that. That's a mental image that we've just done a great disservice to America with. But Bryson, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, where you grew up and your family life, anything you want to share.
Yeah, man. So I'm from Pulaski County, Kentucky, which is like southern, sort of close to Tennessee. Really, really small town. That's kind of like where my origins are at. So grew up there, and not really like too much to say as far as like excitement or anything, but sort of the lack of excitement maybe in some of those areas is sort of like kind of like what pulls into the creative stuff. You know, if there's quote nothing to do, then you end up having no reason to like leave the house, so you can kind of like do like guitar nerd thing a little bit. And then I moved to Lexington mostly for just some sort of like opportunity. It's like kind of I feel like Lexington, Kentucky is sort of like a transplant area. Like a lot of people from smaller counties, there's sort of like that influx of people there. So Zach, like our drummer, he's from Cordy County, also southern Kentucky. So we're both neighboring counties, both moved to Lexington and then met up there. But I've been in Lexington for like 10 or 12 years or something like that.
Okay.
And then as far as family life goes, I have an amazing family. Parents are supportive, musical as far as their ears go. Like, my dad was heavily influential on my taste growing up. Like it was like you got Kiss, Otis Redding, Merle Haggard. Like, I mean, it was just like, it was sort of like a constant, sort of like you kind of like a little kid, like tractor beam, just like kind of ingesting like all of these like different sounds and stuff. And my uncle, he's a guitar player, singer. He spent a bit of time in Nashville, I think in the 90s, sort of in like the Alan Jackson Takamine boom, But Garth Brooks bought one and so did everyone else. But he had some mild success there. Like a video that like went out on the family channel and something. It's nice. You can like look it up or something later if you want to. It's Randy Willoughby. But he was a big influence on me as well. Especially early on, it was kind of funny. So like he was Bruce Springsteen, I'm a huge fan of, and my uncle like would always have the acoustic guitar out, and he would play songs from Nebraska and all these old Merle Haggard songs. So when I'm growing up, like 9 or 10 years old, I think my uncle was the best songwriter of all time. Yeah, because I was like, wow, these are all amazing. And then I think around like 12, I started realizing like, oh, that's Springsteen and Merle Haggard. But I think that recovers the scope of my upbringing in a small chunk.
Yeah. How about you, Andrew?
I grew up in Nicholasville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Bozeman County. It's like 30 minutes from Lexington, so Lexington was kind of like the place to go, or if you could, when I was little. But I kind of got all my music stuff from my dad and my brother. Really, they played like in a church. They were both really good drummers, so like I just thought I'd play the bass. Of course, they didn't approve of my dancing at the time, but that's kind of where I learned how to play at first, and then found some guys who were into AC/DC in high school, and they kind of changed my whole perspective on the whole music thing.
Yeah,
kind of an instant, but not too much,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was just thinking of Andrew like in like a Sunday morning service. Like the Spirit has this man.
I go to a church where that would probably be okay. I mean, they would probably just say, "Hey,
Yeah.
he's got the Holy Ghost, so let him go."
He's moving.
Oh man, what's good to get to know you guys just a little bit. One of the things that I also want to ask, both being Kentucky boys, are you whiskey guys?
Yeah, I actually work at a bartend as well as play music at the Kentucky Castle.
Oh yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So I've learned quite a bit since I've been there on it, but I'm kind of excited today because I've never had the Whiskey Thief. And looking at the on there, I'm like, this is gonna put some hair on my chest for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Bryson?
I'm not much of a connoisseur. Like I would say my venture into like whiskey or bourbon or anything like that was, I remember like, those like old spaghetti westerns of like Clint Eastwood where he would just clear out a room and then like grab a glass and then do the small drink. That was kind of like, okay, I'll drink that. Like that's my but as far as knowing anything about it, I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I kind of like what I like, but
if you know what you like, that's all that matters,
Yeah.
At some level, the rest of it's just BS anyway. But let's try some of this Whiskey Thief. And Whiskey Thief is a distillery about 15 minutes west of Frankfurt. Used to be called Three Boys Distilling. And the easiest way that I can find it is if you're traveling on 64 between Louisville and Frankfurt, the exit where you would get off to go to Wild Turkey or Four Roses, turn the other way, and you go about a mile down a little windy road, and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 6-year-old bourbon, 77% corn, 15% rye, 8% malted barley, and it is 117 proof. Awesome. Now, one of the interesting things about Whiskey Thief is if you go there, to me, it's the best visitor experience of any distillery I've ever been at. And the reason why is when you walk in, you can go through the whole tour of, okay, here's some grain and here's the fermenter and here's the still. And that's great. But then after the tour, they have 2 stations where they have 6 whiskey barrels set out. And there's a little chalkboard next to it. And it tells you in each of the barrels what the mash bill is and what the proof is and what the age is of what's in each of the barrels. And you can just take your glass from barrel to barrel, and they've got an employee there that'll thief it right out of the barrel and put it in your glass. So you may have a little bit of char from the barrel in your glass, but you can try all of those. And then if you decide, hey, I think I want to buy a bottle of that one, then you can thieve it into your own bottle.
Oh, wow.
Right there.
That's cool.
But they've got a food truck out back. They've got a patio, picnic tables, TVs, a bar. You can just make a day of it, really, and sit around and drink whiskey straight out of the barrel and have lunch and dinner and hopefully not lose a day out of it. But anyway, you guys had a sip of this yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It tastes great, man. I mean, it almost tastes like 100 proof to me. It was way smoother than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to hurt for real.
I would say, for me not knowing it, it was a little bit smoother as well. It did reach out and touch me.
Good little wake up sip, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Drew,
I've had a chance. I was gonna say I've had a chance to try several of their products over the last couple of years from you, and one of the things I've always been impressed about is even though this is a 6-year-old, the grain still comes through in a way that's respectful and present, but not overwhelmingly young. So you get a little bit of the barley. I was really surprised when you said it was only 8% barley, because I get a lot of the barley notes, kind of the Cheerios and kind of cereal grain things going
Mhm.
on. It's a little bit floral on the nose, maybe some like tulip or honeysuckle type thing, but then the palate is just like all sugar cookie, great, sweet thing for me, and I love that. So
Yeah.
anytime I get a chance to try one of theirs, I'm excited about it. But this is a new one for me, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. It's one of the best ones I've ever got from there, I think. And the good thing is, I mean, this one's been pretty well loved, you know. So there's probably a few more pours sitting in that bottle. But the great thing is you can go back. That's the excuse to go back, and
Absolutely.
so I know you guys travel a lot between Lexington and Louisville, so now you got a place to stop on the way, and they'll take good care of you there. So,
Yeah, right on.
all right. Well, while we're continuing to sip on this Whiskey Thief bourbon, I want you guys to tell us about where people can find information on MojoThunder, any upcoming tour dates, where they can buy merch, all that great stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So the hub for all things Mojo Thunder is MojoThunder.com. That has the merch, that has the tour dates, and just sort of general information. We stay very active on our Instagram and Facebook pages, so those are at Mojo Thunder Official. And then the place where kind of a lot of fun happens as well would be our YouTube channel, which that's at youtube.com/as you guessed at Mojo Thunder Official. And that's all the places I can think of that they're actually active on.
Fantastic.
You are very active on Instagram. You've been post some great stuff, great photos, clips of the band. So yeah, check these guys out on all the social media, and we'll talk a little bit more about the YouTube stuff in a minute. But they're absolutely a great follow on YouTube, because they do some fantastic things there. So we're going to kind of flip over to side B, and we want to talk. You kind of hinted at it when we're talking personal background, but let's talk about personal music background for a minute. And Andrew, let's start with you. Do you remember your first concert?
Yeah, my dad took me and my brother to see Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood. It was awesome.
Holy crap, dude!
Yeah, and he actually picked that one because he saw that Buddy Guy was touring, and my dad's like a super nerd with this stuff. Like, he'll try to like hone in on when these artists will like meet together, and since they're friends, he thought that they were gonna like come out and do a number together. That's why we went all the way out to see them, and I think it was the gig after the one we went to that like Buddy Guy ended up coming out and doing like a solo thing with Clapton and stuff. But I mean, it was a great show. I mean, my dad's like obsessed with Eric Clapton, so that one was like a big deal. Me and my brother both fell in love with him too, I think, through him.
It's awesome.
That's okay. That's a tough one to beat, Bryson. So
I think my first concert was the Kentucky Headhunters opening up for Charlie Daniels Band.
Oh wow,
very good.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I was like 12 or something like that.
Very cool.
Headhunters and CDB. That's very cool.
Eric Clapton and Buddy Guy were not there though.
No, we're not. Okay, imagine that. Do you remember what the venue was where you saw both of them?
Me?
Either of you, yeah.
Center for Rural Development for me in Somerset.
Okay.
Okay.
It speaks for itself as far as what it is.
I was young. It was in Minneapolis. I know that. I don't remember what center. I mean, it was like, but
yeah. I was gonna say the guys from the Headhunters tend to show up at a lot of jams around the Louisville, Lexington area. Have you guys gotten to play with them at all?
Never play with them. I was on a podcast with Greg Martin, the guitar player.
Yeah.
And I met Richard Young once, and we talked for a little while, exchanged numbers, and but like as far as like a continuous relationship, we don't have anything like that with either of them. But both
Just curious.
guys.
Yeah, they're awesome folks.
Yeah.
What about first album? Bryson, remember what your first album was that you bought?
First album I bought, I think, actually we'll go with, I didn't buy it, but I was in Walmart eyeing, there was like a Aerosmith compilation that had come out. It was like a 2-side thing. And it was like the old school Aerosmith, and then like kind of like the new stuff like 80s and 90s.
Yep.
And a lady in Walmart saw me eyeing it, and she ended up buying it for me.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was a big score. And I think the first album I bought on my own might have been Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones.
Awesome.
Might have been what?
Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
But and before it gets like to good music choices, like before that, you guys remember when they had those catalogs they would send where you buy one CD and you get like the 99-cent ones?
Right.
That was like during like the Backstreet Boys era. So I had all that. Like there wasn't like I didn't go straight to like just cool music.
Right.
I had a Big Willie Style by Will Smith as well.
Well, some things that we buy are destined for Goodwill or garage sales.
I don't think they would take them. Oh, no, you keep them in.
Oh wow, Andrew, how about you? You remember your first album?
I remember what it is, but me and my brother went when we were kids. My parents were going to buy us a CD, and I bought Aaron Carter. I Want Candy, I think was the CD title. My brother got Britney Spears.
Which one?
It was I think it was the Oops, I Did It Again. I can't remember.
Classic.
I do remember seeing the cover and thinking, oh my God, man, that's it's a little risque,
Yeah. Well, you kind of cut the legs out from under your Clapton Winwood concert.
It's all about balance. Life is about balance.
I listen to everything.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
When did you guys start playing? Bryson, when did you pick up a guitar?
12. I was 12. And that's where Dad was influential to me, because I wanted to play guitar because I wanted just artistically to express myself in some way. Like I used to draw poorly as a kid and stuff. And but so he was like, "Well, what kind of music do you want to play?" And I was like, "I really don't know. Like I just kind of want to play guitar." And I remember he was like, "Well," he's like, "Check this out." And he played Detroit Rock City by Kiss, which has there's that long car crash intro to it.
Yeah.
Hooked. Done. You know what I mean? Like if he could re-show me that or not, I don't know if he would, but that was a very big turning point for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Andrew, how about you? When did you was the bass the first instrument you picked up, or did you move
Oh
to that?
yeah, it was. I think I was also 12 actually. I wanted to play with my brother and my dad, so like the bass seemed like the move because they played drums, and it also helped that I had two friends, and one was a drummer and one was a guitar player, and they were like, "Hey man, you should just pick up the bass." And I think it was just a no-brainer. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And
Sure.
fell in love with it. And now, I mean, I've tried to learn other instruments and stuff, but like I love the bass. Like I don't want to.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But I definitely, that's my hands down my favorite instrument. So
That's awesome. Do y'all remember what your first guitars were? Like what the make and model and stuff was?
yeah, my bass was a Yamaha. What was it? It's like a black. It was like one of those ones that came in like the kits that came with like a little crappy amp.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen that thing I don't know where it is actually. But
my first guitar was like a white PV Raptor, if you like remember those.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll pronounce the name of this amp right. You being a gear guy, you might be able to point me in the right direction. But we went to a pawn shop, me and Dad, and we were kind of just like looking for something. And I had this like little like solid state Charvel amp.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you pronounce
Yep.
it. I love that little thing. Like it's I mean it, you know, it died eventually.
Sure. Yeah.
But I still got my original guitar. I haven't played it in a very, very long time, but that's one I'll never part with.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Those old amps used to kick into overdrive at about 2 on the volume switch. So yeah, it's no surprise they don't last forever. That's awesome.
So you've talked a little bit about, as you talked about first albums and first concerts, some early influencers there. Who were the musicians, the guitarists and the bass players that inspire you to want to play or influence the way that you play? Andrew, how about you?
As cliche as it is, I think when I heard Zeppelin, I kind of fell in love with John Paul Jones like real
Sure.
early.
Yeah.
I think he's phenomenal. I also I'll never forget. I was riding in my dad's Jeep with like the doors down one day, and he played "Chain" by Fleetwood Mac.
Mm.
This is a cool bass line. You should learn it.
Yes.
Like I instantly was like yes, like I'll learn it now. That this is so cool. Like, I think for the bass, I think for me it was more so about like random cool songs that I found and like wanted to learn, as opposed to like just one bass player to kind of follow all of his stuff. I mean, there's
Right.
bass players I love and stuff, but I think I found most of my stuff through like individual bass lines, I guess, as opposed to artists, if that makes sense.
Do you have a favorite bass line that's not your own?
Ooh. I mean, maybe what is and what should ever be, or that's pretty cool. I kind of like the little
Yep.
floaty kind of.
Yep.
That's one of my favorites, just off the top of my head, I guess.
Yeah. You could probably pick
awesome.
most any Led Zeppelin song and that'd be a good answer. So how about you, Bryson?
The early like kind of holy trinity for me was Ace Frehley from Kiss, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, and Angus Young from AC/DC. Those guys were like were it. I would hear nothing else. You know, those are the 3 best bands on earth. And then and one of my dad's friends, he gave me this like he gave me this like burnt CD like back in the day when you like do those like mixtape things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blues mix, and it had like John Lee Hooker on it. And then from there, I got like rehooked, you know, into like old blues music.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into like the really cool, like the cooler bands like Zeppelin and the Stones, so like a little bit like later after that. So it's like I went through the blues thing, and there's also like the influx of like writers for me, you know, I love Springsteen. You know, he's like you know, one of those like desert island picks for me. Like I'd have to have some Springsteen records. So that kind of stuff too. Like, you know, the more like those guys that like concentrated like more on like the heavy lyrics and stuff.
Yeah. There and you know, a lot of times when we talk about whiskey, we talk about the flavor of that whiskey as it we offer tasting notes on it. So it, like Drew was talking about, hey, there's some sugar cookie in this and there's something else in that. And a lot of times when I'm listening to music, I do the same kind of thing. I hear a little bit of this band and a little bit of that band and just a flavor of this and with you guys and again when I say this, it's not like, okay, well you're you know, you're ripping somebody off or you're not original yourself. Okay. Although everybody rips somebody off, if we're honest, right? But to me, when I listen to you guys, it's almost like if the Black Crowes and Leonard Skinner made a baby while listening to the Back in Black album. That baby is named MojoThunder.
Let me come on. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome.
But and again, I kind of mentioned it pre-show. The thing about your band's music, and then I'll let you talk about your band's music then. But the thing about your band and your music is, to me, it's a fresh, fun, exceptionally well done, almost reimagining of the best music from the 1970s. And that's music that I've loved my whole life. So listening to you guys play, and especially watching you play, I mean, it brings me joy, because it just hits certain notes for me, literally and figuratively, that make me glad. And so I appreciate the music that you guys make, and I hope me simplistically comparing you to other artists isn't seen as being insulting, because that's certainly not the way that it's meant. And that doesn't mean that you're not your own band and then have your own sound and are great at your own thing. But that's just kind of how I process it. And I don't know if that's fair or not fair, or if you take issue with any of that or what.
Definitely don't take any issue with it. I mean, I feel like if any band's like really honest with themselves, it's all coming from somewhere. I mean, like our, I guess probably our biggest song would be Jack's Axe, which, people like, that sounds like AC/DC, and that's not lost on me. Like, when I was writing the riff, I wanted to write something that was kind of AC/DC,
right,
reminiscent. So, yeah, it's always I always find it funny when bands are like, yeah, like, we just came up with this thing. It's like, okay. Because I mean, that's the whole thing, right? It's like you love music, you're like, oh, I really like the Black Crowes and the Faces and Humble Pie, so like I'm gonna try to do that thing, and then like you can't do it like they do it, so then you sort of like find your own like little lane within that, and
right.
But yeah, like I wouldn't take any issue with that comparison, and really appreciate the people that you mentioned.
Yeah. And even as I was listening, and I don't remember which song it was, but I was listening through one of the songs this weekend, and I'm like, okay, that sounds a little like the Cult. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense, because the Cult sounds a little bit like AC/DC. Yeah. And so it's all kind of circular. But the difference between it being a carbon copy of something is you guys have put a really great fresh take on that very distinctive rock and roll sound of the 70s. And so let's talk about MojoThunder then. When did the band originally start? And Bryson, who did you start it with?
I started with Zach. Now, it would be heavily disputed if he was on here. We would argue and take up the duration of this podcast. But so we both had out like Craigslist ads, which is for any of your like super younger listeners, and for the older listeners. So you guys had newspaper ads that went to Craigslist, and before you had like social media, it was Craigslist. So there's the middle of that,
right?
But anyway. Who answered whose ads still yet to be determined. We can't find the emails. But no, we got together and started jamming. We kind of had a mutual love for like, he was really into the Stones at the time, and I like had just come off this like big Grateful Dead and like Cream kicks. I was like really into like long jammy stuff at the time. But anyways, and then we also had like sort of like some modern influences. Like, I'm a huge My Morning Jacket fan. Yeah. We just saw them yesterday. Like,
I saw them last Saturday, and I'm so pumped about it. It was incredible. They're amazing.
You guys got a great set list. More on that later. But anyways, like out of like sort of like the love for like all those bands were like, and we were the only people kind of like searching for that too, because like before before everybody learned how to play an acoustic guitar and became from Eastern Kentucky, which just a side note on that real quick, being from Pulaski County, I had no idea I had that many neighbors. Anyways, but
whoever could you be referring to?
Yeah. So many, there's tons of them. But anyhow, yeah. So like it was like a really like hard rock, and like there was like a lot of like kind of like the screamy stuff, like the that like I don't enjoy my parents' company kind of music.
Yes.
And we didn't like any of that stuff, and like me and Zach can't sing, so there's no way like we could like write and like be as good as Tyler Childers or something. So we were like, it was play like loud rock music, and then a mutual friend of ours brought in Andrew, and he joined, and then we floated around on singers for like a few years. Like at one point, me and Andrew were sharing vocal duties, and horrible. And then we had a guy in, but he was kind of more hard rock too. Like, and it kind of like it brought it took us out of what we had like kind of originally wanted to do. And then we found Sean on Facebook. I think someone had shared a video of him singing. And we were like, look at this cat! Like, he's got the hair, he's got the vocals and stuff. So, and he was running the blues trio at the time. So we just went up to one of his shows, and after the show, we're like, "Hey, man, like how serious is this 3-piece?" And but we invited him in, and then from there, that's been like MojoThunder. Like, there's on occasion we'll get asked of like, because like some people came to those early shows and they have like maybe the more hard rock guy singer, and I'm like, well, we could talk about the bass players that came in before Andrew or this person, that person, but like before the band started when Sean joined us, and then we've been with that ever since.
Okay.
Awesome.
Right. Before we get more down the music side of it, the releases, albums and such, Drew, do you want to go over some gear? You've got them.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I've only gotten a chance to see you guys once, and I was on my way in and out kind of a thing. But talk to me just a little bit about how you guys get your sound, because you obviously have some 70s influence. You obviously have some of the hard rock. Bryson, I think you definitely have some of that blues influence in your tone. So could we get just like a 60-second rig rundown from you guys?
Sure, yeah. I've got a Fender Rumble amp that I'm using right now. I definitely like wanted to go more of the round tone, the more like not punctuated bass tone. I kind of wanted to glue underneath what the singing and what the lead guitars are doing. I feel like rounder tones, when they stick with the kick, are fatter,
Yes.
But I got like an Ovation Magnum 3 as my bass, which is a really weird random one, and the pickup on it is so fat. Like, I've never seen. I mean, that's why what drew me to it was the pickup was like. I mean, it's like this freaking. I don't understand why it's so
it's huge.
It looks ridiculous, and I kind of like looking ridiculous. But
awesome.
My stuff. So just a slew of Gibsons. Like, I have like 2 Les Pauls, Firebird, SG, a Flying V, and then I have a Telecaster that I've been playing here recently. But I did the thing you're not supposed to do with tellies, and I took out the single coils and I put 2 pearly bass.
Yep.
So I get some telly people hate from time to time, but like whatever.
They're Swiss Army knives of guitars. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be for whatever the hell you need. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, that now, and then Sean plays through a box, and he's got like all the Gibson stuff too.
Okay.
I have a Fender DeVille 410 that I use. It's kind of my working man amp, but if I'm recording, I use Marshalls.
Okay.
We both do the like roll off on the volume and tone. Like, that's kind of where we live on like our drive and stuff. And then
awesome.
pedal wise, like just sort of some flavors here and there. Like I've got an octave pedal, a univibe, and then a wah pedal. I love wah, and then
Yeah.
John does like this like big massive like box verb where he just creates this Pink Floyd craziness, and he's like really good at like controlling that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, he doesn't really run anything else, in my knowledge. I think he has like a phase 90 that he does sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. It's very like,
Okay.
And then and I think tube swimmer or something like that.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for indulging that question for me and the other 3 gearheads that listen to our podcast. We always enjoy it. I'm always curious to see how people get the tone that they achieve. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So Bryson, when Sean joined the band, it's not like you're just bringing in a vocalist, which it can be an adjustment in and of itself, but you're bringing in another guitarist.
Yeah.
How long did it take you guys playing together where you felt like it was natural?
I mean, probably like now before we were good a while, but after the first, I would say like the first like few jams, we were really digging it because I had like got like really back into like 2 guitar bands. Like I wanted to do like guitar harmonies like the Allman Brothers and Thin Lizzy, My Morning Jacket, like stuff like that. And like when we were kind of running as a 3-piece, it was just like so limiting to not have that other sound.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean's a really good lead player too. Like I mean, he can like he plays like good blues music and stuff, and he's like, I mean, obviously he's got an knack for melody anyway. But so we've like really been able to like share that space, and I'm kind of like, I mean, obviously I'm a guitar player, so I like playing solos, but I love like building those into the harmony stuff better. So I think I wanted it so much, like when he came in, that it was like it was destined to work together quickly because I was like, oh, let's do this.
Well, and I asked because the guitar harmonies on your music work so well. I just didn't know how long it took to get that down. Now, obviously, in the studio, you can do some things, but it works live also. So.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, the first EP you guys released is this one, Loose Lips, and that is, if you're not familiar with MojoThunder, going back and jumping in at this point is not a bad idea because there's some dandy songs on that.
Thank you.
Queen of the Night and Fine are probably 2 of my favorites that you guys do. So how long did it take you to put together the EP?
The recording portion, it was 4 days.
Wow.
It was like, I think 7 songs or something is what we
recorded.
Yeah,
there's 2 that we didn't. 2 of them we didn't put on.
Yeah,
the EP.
And Fine, I definitely think Fine's probably the most like accomplished song on that. I was never quite crazy about the recorded version of Queen of the Night. It's a huge live staple. Like it's like one of those like does this thing. But yeah, and that's Andrew wrote the riff to Queen of the Night, like the doo 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 bow. I'm sure everyone really understood that. But he done that, and he also came up with the I think the like early arrangement of Fine. Is that correct?
Yeah. The intro and the solo section, Bryson did on that. But I showed Sean a bass lick and like a whole song thing, and told him I was like kind of wanting the song to be about like a chick that broke up with me and be like, hey, like everything's cool, like I'm doing great over here, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So he kind of came up with words.
Yeah, and I walked into the apartment that day and was like, that's cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the story of Loose Lips, though. We recorded that at Barrick Recording Studios in Glasgow.
Yeah.
It was like kind of like the first like kind of time like we worked with somebody, and so it was a learning experience. Like there's a lot on that. I think we learned to do better later.
Yeah. The next album that came out was Hymns from the Electric Church,
Mm.
and I've got a model copy here if you can
Oh,
see that.
nice. Cool.
Got it autographed and everything. It's fantastic. And one of the things I noticed was all songs written and performed by MojoThunder. So the writing credits are band credits,
Yeah,
right? So
always.
talk to me about the writing process that you go through as a band, then, both musically and lyrically.
Okay, so and I'm gonna encompass this like even in like the newer stuff that we're writing. So I'll just kind of like talk about it
Sure.
as a whole. Everything's split 4 ways because simple way I see it is like say if I bring in a song and I'm like I wrote like lyrics, melody, and I have the arrangement. I didn't write the bass part, I didn't write the drum part, and like whatever like kind of melody shifts, like Sean may change or something like that. I didn't write that either. So to us, it's like 4 ways. Pirates, like you split the loot equally on everything.
Right.
No interest in someone achieving like amassing more money than the next person. Like I think that's the whole thing is really gross. But so in short, that's kind of how it works. Like like there's songs that like maybe like 2 people are like really really involved with, and then people kind of come in on the tail end of it. Sometimes like just one person will like kind of like write like the whole like arrangement or what you would consider it, and then there's other times where we're like kind of in a room and like a riff just sparks and we sort of like all dive in on it together. Now hymns is I think like 98% Sean lyrics. And then like on some of the newer stuff that we're moving towards now, there's like it's very, very like diverse on who's like writing what lyric.
Okay, cool. What comes first usually?
Music always.
Music always.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. How is that with you, Drew? Is it mostly music or is it lyrics?
Yeah, I was gonna say for me it's probably exactly opposite. I would say 90% of the time it's lyrics first, but that's just me taking quotes or a journal entry or a poem that I read or something, and then
just like
kind of extrapolating on it, and then I usually try to take whatever emotion I feel lyrically that I'm trying to encompass, and then usually start at the piano and then take that into whatever. But there's been a couple things on this new record where we take an idea musically and then just say, okay, what can we retrofit with this? That's the next single we'll release is that way, where we had riff first and then kind of took a poem that meant a lot to all of us and turned it into a song. So that's maybe 5 to 10% of the time, but I think it works differently for every band, and I don't think there's any like right way to do it necessarily, like whatever works for you. I was curious, you guys said you start music first. Is it an emotion that you're trying to capture with a riff or a tone, or is it more like, hey, this is badass, let's find something that works with it? Or like how do you approach that?
Not me, like when I sit down to do stuff, I every morning this is my routine. I wake up, go to the gym, I'll listen to a few albums while I'm there, and then I come home, I sit down at the computer with a guitar and I start playing, and then I just let it go from there. Like some days it becomes more like I've got some like little chords I'm working on, maybe like jot down some like lyrics or some like melody ideas and stuff, and then other times I'm just a guitar player that day. So like stuff like Jack's Axe or a lot of the stuff on hymns, like I just was like really, really feeling that particular style. So yeah, I'd probably say emotionally, I guess, because it's kind of like I don't to the best of my ability, I try not to be like I really want to like do this or do that. It just kind of comes from like for example, like the AC/DC thing. If I'm listening to a lot of AC/DC, then it just sort of like rolls out that way, and then
yeah.
And then try not to like knock myself down too much. Like, I don't know, maybe it sounds too much like this. Like, nah, if you're feeling it's cool, you like it, then roll with it.
Right. So one of the tracks on Hymns from the Electric Church is called Bullet. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to drink some Bullet. We've got a Bullet Bourbon Blender Select. It's 100 proof.
This is the next guy.
Sir, yes, sir.
I'll let you tend to it.
All right, so Kevin, what are the stats on this one? What can you tell us about it?
Well, it is. I can't tell you a whole lot about it. There's not an age statement on it, but it's a special release. I don't know that they're still doing these or not, but they call them Blender Select, where they take 3 different bourbon distillates from their distillery, and they blend them and bottle it.
Okay.
So that's
Would this
what I know.
would this have been when Melissa was still there that they were putting these out?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay, this is probably her handprint. The only reason I say that is because there's a little bit of a familiar flavor profile to this one. But what do you guys think, Andrew and Bryson?
You go first.
Oh, that's pretty good. I don't know if it's because I've been drinking that whiskey thief that I'm like warmed up now. You know what I mean? But I think it tastes great. I feel like there's not really a bite on it for me at all, especially like in the back end. I feel like he doesn't linger at all. I feel like he just kind of comes and goes, which is kind of shocking. What is it, 100 proof?
100 proof.
You say it was 3 different types?
It's 3 different bourbon whiskeys there that they blend together. I think they have 10 different distillates that they make at the distillery, and this is 3 of them.
That's cool. So I'm getting this one feels more wider, and the last one was Doc Holiday for me.
I like it. I like it.
Sick. Good, Kevin. What do you think?
I think it's good. Bullet is something that I probably don't reach for a lot, except maybe when I'm out of the bar. It's one of those. It's at about every bar. So, and it's always good. It's not usually overpriced, and it's reliable. So it does the job. But I think this is good. I like it. Get a little bit of like red cherry on it. Some syrup, maybe maple syrup. How about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely skews towards the darker side, whereas the last one was maybe a little floral. I agree with you, Andrew. It doesn't have like a bite, but it does have a little bit more of like a drying effect on the side of my palate. I don't know if that is age or just the distillate or whatever that makes it up, but I almost get kind of like a cedar taste more than I get the oak influence. It's just got a little bit of like a tinge of acidity is not the right word, but it's just got a little bit of that like drier kind of thing down the side, and I really like it. And I'm like you, Kevin. I don't necessarily reach for Bullet all the time, and don't necessarily purchase a whole bottle at a time. But it is very consistent, and this one's just enough of a variance from the standard shelf offering that it's worth reaching for sure.
Kind of on the finish, I get a little like a tea, like a mint tea or something.
Yeah.
As well. So anyway, yeah, I could sit on the deck with this bottle and listen to some MojoThunder, and that'd be all right.
Ain't mad about it. Ain't mad about it.
So the album Hymns from the Electric Church. First, let's talk about the name of the album. Obviously, that conjures up some ideas about spirituality and is that kind of a back towards a background that you guys may have had in church, or is that more capturing the vibe, which we kind of alluded to when we were talking about Andrew and his dancing, more the spirituality fervor from playing and listening to the music?
So I think like thematically, it's like everyone is sort of like when you hear church, you think of like congregating people, message, and regardless of your affiliation and where it's at, like I think the general like try of like any sort of like religious organization is some sort of goodwill. So imagery wise, like yes, and I think like I have like a large background in sort of like studying some of that stuff. So it's not religious in any way, but as far as like electric, meaning like moving, and then and like I think it was Paul in the Bible who talked about the church as people, like not like a place or like,
Right.
he was like, this is like the church are the people. So it's kind of like, songs for like moving people, it's just like sort of the whole, the idea of like, it's sort of like was meant to be sort of like a soundtrack to like kind of whatever, like you were going for, like your journey or, kind of where you're at sort of, but we just wanted to be like somebody's like life background music in a way, like, if you imagine yourself walking slow motion into something that you wanted to do, so like maybe we could provide like a nice aesthetic for that. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Andrew?
No, I think that sounds great. I mean, I think the whole point of it was we're not trying to tell people what to think or do, but like, do it. Just do it. If you want to believe that or in any way, like, you should go for it.
Yeah.
Right or wrong path, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the songs that Bryson, I think you mentioned a couple of times, is the opening track, Jack's Axe. And it's pretty torrid. You can definitely hear some AC/DC in there, but it's not like I said, it's not like, okay, here these guys is just covering an AC/DC song with just changing the lyrics. I mean, but you can tell that's the influence, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about that song and how that all came together.
I came up with like the riff and like the loose arrangement with it, and I took it to the guys and was like, hey, like, you guys like this thing, and they were like, yeah, that's cool, man. And so then we just sort of workshopped it from there. And it went through like a few changes, but not many. Like that was one that came like pretty quick. It was don't second guess it, roll with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, just a good stomp rock kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a great opening track.
Thank you.
And the first time I listened to the album, I kind of had trouble getting off of that opening track. So, but I did eventually and got to Blackbird.
Hey, cool.
And Blackbird has some great keys on it. It's a beautiful high energy song, but you use keys on it. So tell us about the use of the keys.
We actually had somebody come in and do that one, didn't we?
Yeah. It was that's how we met Richard Young, actually, the Headhunters. He was in town. So I don't know if you guys know this. There's a band called the Georgia Thunderbolts. So anyways, TJ was in town, and we were just all sitting there talking. Like I said, Richard had brought him over to the studio, and me and him, I think, and Sean were talking about Ray Charles, and he was like, I play a little bit of keys, and we were like, here's a song if you want to put some keys on. And so he did, and that was another thing that we didn't really overthink. Now the rest of the keys on the album, though, is a four-handed monster that included like Sean and myself, or like Andrew and Sean. Mostly like Sean, like kind of like handle like certain parts, and then you have somebody up here being like, okay.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
One of my favorite songs on the album, and when I'm listening to it, I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite. And then I'll listen to the next song and like, no, maybe this is. But the song Soul, that song, it burns.
It goes hard.
It burns. I love it. And it's not the most flamboyant guitar solo or anything, but the guitar parts in that song, just it all fits so perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
And To me, everybody's kind of firing on all cylinders with that. Andrew's bass is fantastic. Zach really gets into it with the drums, and I think that it's probably easily Sean's best vocal work. But it's a terrific song. So tell us a little bit about it and what it's about.
Well, funny enough, when that was the first song we made together. And when Sean came into the band, he had this song in E&A, and he had all these lyrics and stuff. And we had a song that we were like saving for when we met the right singer, and it just so happened to be the format of soul. And so we just kind of literally collabed the two songs, and for somehow it just clicked instantly. I mean, it didn't take us any time at all to write those songs, because it kind of felt like we had a chunk and Sean had a chunk.
Yeah,
It's kind of like just
we essentially written the same song, and then I had like that. I had that like kind of like the guitar part. Like I sort of like had that for like years. That little like ascending. I think you would call it ascending, I guess. But when the guitar solo starts, that was something I'd like played and like never quite found a song working into. And then when we started talking about like, oh, what are we gonna do for like solo and stuff, and I was like, I got a thing.
So
now lyrically, I would imagine Sean would have to tell you about that one, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory though. Like I think like if you read the lyrics, there's not like a big hidden meaning or anything. I think it's like fairly out there as far as what its goal is.
Yeah. The song that follows it is a lot of fun. It's called "Fill Me Up."
Yeah.
And basically, it's a story of a relationship between a guy and a girl over, basically most of a lifetime. And it's the fascinating thing about it to me is how the perspective of from the guy who's it's being sung in the first person, how his perspective about who this girl is and what he wants out of the relationship changes from verse to verse,
right? Yeah.
As they progress in their relationship. Now, is that one that Sean wrote as well? Is that kind of him telling his story, or?
Yes, yeah, lyrically that's it, and then I kind of come up with the musical like part.
Yeah, that's very
and
cool.
We sort of like I think we all workshopped like anyways, but yeah, I came up with a loose arrangement, and then Sean put the lyrics on it, and then the other guys kind of tightened it up and made it what it was.
Yeah, very cool. One more that I'll mention is the closing track, "A New Dawn."
Yeah.
I don't know if as that song crescendos, if James Bond is supposed to be killing the villain, or we finally defeated the Orc army or blown up the Death Star. But that is such a very dramatic song that finishes with such a great crescendo and high energy. It from where it starts, very subtle and delicate, and then it gets big and rocks hard. How did that song get written?
So that was one that I started putting together the music, and I was like kind of obsessed, like in that time period of like letting go of song structure. So like it's like, well, do you have to have a chorus and a bridge, and like make sure like you do like first chorus, solo, bridge out, or whatever it is, and it's just like it's like artistically, can you just do something that you want to do? And so like the build up and everything, I was like super obsessed with. I'm sure you guys listen to the Beatles, but it's like like A Day in the Life, where they had like that big like thing, and I thought like I wonder like you could like just do that with just like instruments and like not like do a bunch of like studio wizardry, but like if you could create this like kind of chaos like just with 4 pieces. And also there's a like Octopus's Garden, in the chorus of that song, like they have like a repeating lick that goes through it while the chord changes go. And I just thought it was like super cool. I was like, so if I ever get like a chance to sort of like indulge in that idea, we could do that. And it sort of had like that kind of like the opening riff, and then sort of everything just sort of like escalated to that, and we would like jam on it, and then finally like we kind of got to that riff, and everyone was like, "It's kind of cool," like kind of making that work, and yeah, and so we succeeded. No chorus, it just does what it does. I'm really really proud of that one musically.
Yeah,
and definitely Death Star. Or the
Definitely Death Star. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have if you've not listened to this album, do yourself a favor and stream it right now. Do you guys still have CDs available?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
All right. So somebody,
we should. Yeah.
if somebody wanted to order the CD, they could order that through the website, right?
Yes. Yeah. MojoThunder.com.
Yeah. Okay. Now, then kind of a surprise release earlier this year was Alive with Friends, which you recorded at the Burl in Lexington and at Zanzibar in Louisville, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, what do you like better, the playing live or the recording the songs?
Playing live for sure for me.
Okay.
But I can't dance on the record.
That's a lie. It does that in the studio too.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Oh, I love both. Like I mean, I couldn't have one without the other. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to be like just like a studio guy all the time. And like I just love writing songs so much, and like kind of like like putting them together and sort of like hearing the finished product and stuff. So they're both. I don't know.
Yeah. The quality of the songs is strong enough that you definitely need to check out the studio albums. It's not just like, well, it's a band, they rock hard, so just go see them live and don't worry about what the song is. It sounds cool. But I think you the songs that you create and the album that you created are strong enough, and Drew likes to use a phrase of no skips. And I think that Hymns from the Electric Church fits that. Would you agree?
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
So you got to, if you want to experience the fullness of what the band is, you definitely need to listen to the album. But the live performance is it's got a different energy to it, and some of the songs are a little different, and you get some covers thrown in there, and we'll talk about that in a second. But so you got to really get into both. So if you listen to the albums, great. Stay tuned. Follow them on social media so you can see where they're playing live. But until you can see them live, this is, I guess, almost the next best thing there, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we did it. Was because like logistically, there's people like that will like kind of hit us up from maybe like California, Colorado, and like just I don't know, just different places across the U.S. and
Yep.
And it's like when you get into like the business of traveling and all that, it's like like if you like by the time you get out there, your ticket would have to be so expensive, and it's like how many people will actually come to the shows and stuff, and so. But anyways, there's like a few like people that are like kind of get disappointed and like send us like messages online, like, man, you guys never come out here and do this stuff. So I thought, well, what if we recorded just like one live show or like a few live shows and kind of like at least like kind of gave people like something that they could go to. And we've and like you were talking about, like sort of those like the extended stuff is like, so like night to night, like if you come to see us, we never play the same set list twice. It's always different. And like we add in like little jams and stuff because it's kind of like the thing is like if you just want to listen to the record, then like we wouldn't want someone to come and be disappointed that they just kind of like heard us play the CD, but like we want to sort of provide an experience and wanted to give that experience to people that maybe can't afford to come see us or we can't afford to go.
Yeah. So when on the live album, you close with a medley of The Who. And when I saw you guys at Zanzibar back in April, you closed with a Led Zeppelin medley.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. Are there others that you use in the set list rotation?
Oh yeah. Not medley wise, not so much, but there's like a slew of covers that we pull from. There's like 3 Beatles songs. We do it like a free song. We cover One Big Holiday by My Morning Jacket sometimes. But yeah, I mean that well like runs really deep, and like that was one of the things like when we were on tour in Europe, it was like kind of nice. It was like because we had like like people like repeat coming because I'd like done a bunch of press before. I was like, we change the set every night to come see, So there are people. I was like, are these guys really going to do that or not? But so that was like encore. So always make it different or like kind of but anyways, the long story short, yes.
Now, a couple of things. We talked about what you do on YouTube. You do what you call thunder covers.
Yeah.
And you covered one of my favorite Rolling Stones song, which I think is probably the best opening guitar riff ever of all time. With can't you hear me knocking?
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And you really let it go. You let it breathe, and it's I don't know, good 7-8 minute song. Now, when you do those, is it okay? We're recording live. Here we go. And so it's what you see is what you're getting, or is that you've recorded it elsewhere and you're just kind of overdubbing it or lip syncing over it?
So, yeah, they're definitely not a live performance on the covers. Like that's like all it's like studio work, and then we do them later. And actually, funny enough, we've had like some people in our YouTube comments. People are like, "That's not live." So like, me and Andrew posted a story of like the song playing in the background and us being like this, and we were like, "If it isn't live, how could we do this?" But yeah, it's all. That's all studio, and then now the live album was obviously live over those 2 shows, but the Thunder covers are they're just kind of like fun, like spend a day in a studio, something.
Right, performance videos basically.
Yeah.
Another one that you do, which is a lot of fun, is Thriller.
Oh, yeah, that one.
And even with the 4 of you doing the Thriller dance at one point.
I just found that today. I had not seen that until literally like 8 hours ago. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so funny, dude. Yeah, dude, me and Zach are so bad at dancing, and Andrew and Sean are so good at it. Like it's such a travesty anytime me and him try to do any sort of stepping in time.
Yeah. Okay, but recently you were in Europe.
Yeah.
Now, have you all gone before? Is this your first trip?
First time.
Yeah. So how was that experience?
It was awesome. It was immaculate. I mean, just the amount of people coming to shows that were places we've never been to was just unbelievable. I mean, you'd have people singing your songs who couldn't really talk to you, which I thought was like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Have somebody singing along. Some of the venues, like young people were like younger teenagers were allowed in, like with their parents, and it was cool to see, like, I don't know, like a kid getting like that into it was like kind of surreal for me. I've never really got to, because where we play clubs and bars all the times, it's not really normal for like a 14-year-old to be in there or something. But I had a blast. The food was good.
Yeah.
You know.
Good. And you were recently in the studio recording for the new album. So how many tracks did you get laid down? Anything you want to share with us about where you are in that process?
Yeah. So we done 16, which obviously we won't end up like actually releasing all 16, but yeah, we done, what was it, 5 days or something?
5 days, yeah.
Yeah, so 5 days we got all like the basics laid down. So it won't be and that was the nice thing too, is like coming off of Europe, so it's like we kind of like really went in the workshop, you know, so to speak, and we were like, okay, like let's try these new songs out, figure out what works, what doesn't, like what works. So you know, the Europe tour was like it was like 36 shows or something like that, and it was like 2 days off during that entire time. So we booked the studio pretty much as soon as we got back. So we were well rehearsed to kind of do those sort of numbers going in. But so from there, like we'll go back and we'll do the vocals, and then there's like some guitar tone choices. Like me and Sean normally records to keep like the first one that he does, and I really like to go back later and kind of like map out the way I like really want to do it. So I'll just kind of lay down a basic rhythm track and then sort of go nerd out on that stuff later. Yeah, I think we got some really solid stuff. I mean, you know, obviously like the new thing you're working on is like what you're like really excited about. And yeah, like we've got some songs that I think like in the live thing, you know, we're kind of doing half and half right now on new stuff. They seem to be doing pretty well. And you know, our girlfriends and parents really like them, so you know, that's always a good indicator. So we're really excited about it.
Good. And when do you think you'll be releasing a new album?
You know, sometime, man.
Yeah.
So here's the deal with that is we have a few more studio days to do, you know, get everything done, and you know, then we'll have it mixed, and then, you know, like inevitably there'll be some kind of volley with the mix.
Sure.
And then we all get to sit down and argue and yell at each other about which songs go on there and which songs don't.
Right. And what order they go in. Yeah.
Yes. Then the album art and like music videos and promotion stuff. You know, there's so much that goes into it. But so a long story short, like I've been sort of talking with like some marketing companies and stuff to like sort of see like what we do, because we're independent, you know, like we don't have any like backing for that one. So we've kind of like set aside like our own budget and sort of like, you know, seeing who we could work with or not. But so a lot of it will be up to their advice as well. Like, you know, like how long of a campaign should we do, or how long should this be? And but it'll be in 2024, and it won't be in January or February because, you know, we'll want to do like a tour that goes with it, and none of us are crazy about traveling in like big snow or anything. So, you know, general laziness on trying to drive in the cold. I'm hoping that it'll probably be like April-ish or like somewhere in that by next summer.
Okay.
But you know, to make this a longer explanation of that, we don't know. It'll just be once we get everything back and figure out the logistics of release.
Okay.
But 2024. Sure.
Okay. Well, that's far too long, but you know, It is what it is.
We'll just do some roughs or something. Let me get them, get a little sneak peek.
But as far as upcoming tour dates, anything you've got on the calendar? I think I saw something down at the AMP.
Yeah.
Ooh.
On the
At
22nd of July.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's I think we're doing, it's like a tribute band. We're opening for like a tribute band. Originally it was Van Halen. I think now it's Def Leppard, which no hate towards the latter, but I was like really wanting to see somebody pull off the Eddie Van Halen stuff.
Yeah.
I think that would have been like really nice.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and stop my opinions at that. Yeah, from there, I think in Louisville we're doing the Big Stomp Festival.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's like super great cause. It's like about mental health and stuff, and like we're really excited to be on that. I think that's going to be just a really cool experience and getting to meet a lot of good people. And kind of sparse through that. I think that'll be another thing. Like when the album comes out, we'll probably do like a big full scale tour, and then we'll be going back to Europe. But until then, it's just kind of putting things in boxes, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah, the Big Stomp is the 18th and 19th of this year in Louisville. So
awesome.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that log still show sounds like something we might need to make a drive for, Kevin. We've got a mutual friend that runs the visitor center and the guest experience down there, and we may or may not have some whiskey in our backpacks for you guys if we get to make it down there. Tends to be how it goes.
Yeah, I've looked at that date, and I thought of all dates because I am in St. Louis seeing Tedeschi Trucks Band on the 22nd of July.
So that'll be a better show. Yeah. Please go to that.
Yeah, but no. In all seriousness, can't thank you both enough for being on with us.
Thank you all for having us.
Oh yeah, this has been awesome. I got some free bourbon out of this. Let's go.
Yeah. That's what we do. But if you want, guys, promote where folks can find the band and they can find you on social media.
Yes. So all things MojoThunder, if you're going for any sort of social media thing, is at MojoThunder Official. If you're looking at YouTube, if you're trying to get into that sort of thing, it is it's also at MojoThunder Official, as you would have guessed, and as I just said wrong. Now, from there, you can go to MojoThunder.com. That's a hub for those of you who still enjoy websites. Sure, do that thing. But if you're trying to look for when that album's going to be released, if you're wanting to know when that's going to be, I would definitely hang on Instagram because we're normally a little more active on there. Yeah. And if we have a Twitter, we're not supposed to. If you find us on Twitter, that's not supposed to be. And if you have a check mark, someone else is paying for that.
It's there, but
it'll be deleted soon.
Okay, well, call your attorney. Gonna get in a legal battle right here. Drew, how about you, buddy? Where can folks find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter on purpose, but that's just so I can be an asshole on purpose. So that's out there. The Instagram at Drew Crawley 63 is a great place to keep up like week to week with pop-up things that happen. DrewCrawleymusic.com. We just finished kind of the next 4 to 6 months worth of dates, so those will be hitting the website whenever I get back from Nashville. So check that out. And then we are working towards a record release date being official, but it'll be sometime in November for this next project. So keep an eye out for that.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. Congratulations on that progress.
Thank you.
As for our show, if you want to watch us, and why wouldn't you? You can go to YouTube. If you just want to listen to the show, we're on your favorite podcast platforms, as long as that is Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we can post and you can post. What are you drinking that night? What are you listening to that night? You'll see a fair amount of me posting information about a band and information about a whiskey that I may be enjoying as a deck pour for the evening. So join in the fun, join our Facebook group. I think you'll have a good time with it. So again, thank you, Bryson and Andrew, so much for being a part of this.
You guys were awesome.
Really appreciate you being with us. And we will, I told somebody once that being on our show is like going to the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Show may be over. Show may be over. Yeah. If you want to use that as a lyric in a song, go for it. I'll allow it. But show may be over, but we're going to support you guys, whatever you do, promote whatever you're doing. You got live shows, stuff that you're releasing. Follow them directly, but you're going to see it from us as well, because we believe in these guys and what they're doing and wish them nothing but the absolute best because they deserve it.
100%.
So,
So much.
all right. Until next time, on behalf of Drew, Andrew, Bryson, and myself, and, Sean and Zach too. They're not here, but, we'll throw them in. On behalf of all of us, thank you for joining us. Cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Night, everybody.
Later, you guys.